And one of the things that always makes me nervous is here we practice labor and employment law, which is really in front of the EEOC, the National Labor Relations Board, the Department of Labor. Those are the three primary agencies we deal with. Anytime we get the Department of Justice
Yeah,
involved, takes it sort of to another
for
level
sure.
because of their criminal enforcement mechanism. And so, could this DOJ guidance, or if an employer in the private sector that's not receiving federal funding, if they're following any of these practices that this guidance suggests are illegal, could that have implications for a private employer with the Department of Justice?
Absolutely, Bert. And the administration has been forecasting this since day one. They said like, well, how do we make them, what's our enforcement tool here, right? How can we make employers get rid of what we think are unlawful DEI programs? And they've focused on a statute called the False Claims Act. And I don't know if you've talked about this at other sessions before, but the False Claims Act is a really powerful tool that the federal government uses to combat fraud against the federal government. And I usually associate it with things like Medicare fraud, where there's like people who are racking up like, fake invoices to the government. And then it's usually something like billions of dollars worth of fraud perpetrated against the government. Well, the administration has decided that this is how they're going to this is their enforcement tool for going against folks that they think are implementing unlawful DEI programs. And you mentioned criminal liability. False Claims Act has that. It also has treble damages per violation, right? So if you're a federal contractor and you're submitting invoices for reimbursement, each time you do that, it's going to be like triple damages. So these things get up really, really quickly, right? The expenses get really, really quickly. That's in contrast, like you said, Bert, like the NLRA, which has no, it just a make whole remedy. It has no punitive civil penalties or things like Title VII that have caps on the amounts of damages, right? So this False Claims Act has really got the business community a little bit extra nervous, right? And a little bit more careful about what's going on here, right? And I've heard, I haven't been able to get my hands on this, but I've heard that just in the last week or so, I think probably following on this memorandum, that some federal contractors have received CIDs. It's like complaint for an investigative demand or something like that, or civil investigative demand. That's what it is, a CID. Again, we're not used to really dealing with DOJ, but this is sort of the DOJ's like precursor to a subpoena, and they're sort of been making these demands of federal contractors that they think are still operating what they call unlawful DEI programs. So there are some sort of signs that the DOJ is following up with federal contractors after they release this memo, but I haven't been able to confirm that or see any of those letters. We've been working on it. But so absolutely, I think DOJ is going to be pushing employers on this. And listen, this is like what they think is a political win for them, the administration. I think most employers have sort of figured out a way to be in compliance with this guidance and some of the other guidance materials that have been released already. But I'm telling you, the administration would love to have an example, right? They would love to be able to have a press conference, a press release with preferably some big high-tech company from Silicon Valley or whatever that's been flaunting their instructions on DEI. They'd love to make an example of some company, right? So it would behoove our listeners to make sure that they're talking to you, talking to with their other Ogletree attorneys to make sure that anything that they're doing is in compliance.
Facing complex employment law challenges? As an AIM member, you get direct access to Ogletree Deacon's top attorneys for expert guidance and defense. Call AIM at 800-948-5700 or visit aimea.org to engage expert workplace specialists today.